On a cold Friday evening, November 28, 2024, at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York, a strange event took place that grabbed the attention of everyone present. As people rushed to prepare for their flights, a drunken woman, exhibiting rather baffling behavior, caused a chaotic scene when she was denied boarding. Her flight had been cancelled due to external circumstances, but her reaction left many people exchanging puzzled glances, wondering if they were witnessing a scene from a comedy movie or if this was really happening right before their eyes. On what seemed to be a calm afternoon at the airport, when everything appeared to be running smoothly and peacefully, no one could have anticipated that a sudden event was about to disrupt the familiar atmosphere of hurried passengers. The airport, as usual, was bustling with people moving around, busy check-in counters, and the sound of announcements echoing throughout. But in the blink of an eye, that atmosphere was suddenly stirred by an unexpected performance that no one present would soon forget, and the star of that show was none other than a woman who had drunk so much that she could no longer distinguish reality from a dream. She stumbled into the check-in area, appearing quite unsteady, but she was not just any ordinary passenger. She decided that the cancellation of her flight was not a reason to give up or accept the situation. With an incomprehensible mindset, she turned the airport into her stage, and everyone around her became unwitting participants in the performance she had created. From the very first moment, she displayed an assertive attitude, as if she were the only one who truly understood what was happening. She not only expressed her dissatisfaction with the flight cancellation, but also repeatedly made demands that left anyone nearby gaping. She requested to be treated like a VIP, demanded to see security camera footage, and even insisted that the airport staff prove she wasn't drunk. Although her appearance said it all, she seemed completely oblivious to the contradiction between her words and actions. Every step she took, from mumbling to herself to suddenly demanding a review of the security footage, seemed like a scene straight out of a comedy. Her unreasonable demands and the confidence in her words caused the previously peaceful airport atmosphere to turn into a chaotic spectacle, as if everything was spiraling out of control. Clearly, in her drunken mind, this woman believed she was engaged in a battle with everyone present at the airport, and that she would emerge victorious. However, it seemed that she didn't realize that no matter how many demands she made, a cancelled flight couldn't be undone, and the airport was not the place to assert personal power. This woman not only stubbornly defended her viewpoint, but also displayed an oddly persistent attitude. Despite the fact that everyone around her could easily see that she had consumed enough alcohol to worry even a goldfish, known for its weak tolerance to alcohol, she continued to assert that she was completely sober. Her glazed eyes, slurred speech, and unsteady movements couldn't conceal the truth, yet she refused to acknowledge reality. "I'm not drunk, that's just how I see the world," she confidently declared, as if this were a profound philosophical statement that only the enlightened could grasp. The words echoed amidst the stunned silence of those around her, causing many to glance back at her as if she were participating in a drunken speech contest. She had seemingly transformed drunkenness into a philosophy of life, where everything, even reality, could be distorted in the way she deemed appropriate. But the most peculiar moment came when she confronted the airport staff. Not only did she stubbornly demand proof of her sobriety, but she also insisted that staff provide clear evidence, even though everyone around her had seen her fly long before. "Do you have cameras? I need to prove that I haven't been drinking. I only took a few vitamin B pills," she said with utmost seriousness, as though this were a legal investigation and she was the only witness capable of revealing the truth. Her vitamin B excuse added an even more bizarre layer to her already strange behavior, making it impossible for anyone to suppress a laugh. In reality, vitamin B might have been an impromptu choice to explain her dazed state, but no one truly believed that it was the sole cause. The more she tried to defend herself, the more she created an odd and humorous image, making the situation seem even more unusual and unpredictable. Her attitude reflected a refusal to acknowledge the truth, and instead, she invented her own theory to justify her actions, adding a layer of satire to the already absurd situation. The airport staff found themselves caught in a comical yet frustrating situation, unsure of how to handle the intoxicated woman standing before them. Her face was flushed, and her eyes sparkled as if she had just returned from a space-time adventure. Upon hearing the announcement that her flight had been cancelled, she didn't show any understanding or acceptance. Instead, she reacted strongly, as if she had been abducted by aliens. "No, you can't deny me. I'm a customer. I have rights. See, I deserve to fly right now," she exclaimed, waving her finger in the air as though she were controlling the entire airport. The staff stood frozen, unable to respond to her irrational reasoning. She continued to gesticulate wildly, as though her insistence would make the whole airport bow to her will. "Do you understand my rights? I have the right to fly right now, not wait until tomorrow. I am a consumer. I demand immediate service." Her argument, though outlandish, almost sounded logical if you believed that one's personal rights should trump all practical and safety considerations. The problem, of course, was that an airport is not a shopping mall, and flights cannot be rescheduled as easily as changing coats. Yet, this intoxicated customer seemed oblivious to that fact. In her mind, her deserved right to fly immediately was as simple and self-evident as ordering a cup of coffee, not demanding a midnight flight. The airport staff could only stand there, awkwardly smiling, while internally debating whether they should apologize for the flight cancellation or call the police to address her escalating demands. This combination of confusion from the staff and the woman's refusal to compromise created a scene that no one working at the airport would ever forget. She continued to demand that the staff review the security camera footage, insisting that the video would prove she was perfectly sober. She even swore to sue the airport for violating her rights if they didn't allow her to board a flight immediately. Every word she spoke was like a mantra from a courtroom drama she had seen on TV, making the already tense atmosphere even heavier. "I have rights. I must fly now. You can't do this to me," she screamed, pointing at the staff who were trying to stay calm. She kept repeating her demands, as though she were the only person entitled to fly, and anyone who denied her was committing a serious crime. After a few seconds of silence, the airport staff let out a deep, resigned sigh. They had done everything they could to resolve the situation, but convincing an intoxicated person in this state was like trying to convince a donkey to cross a river. Fed up, the employee decided to call the police, though he thought to himself, "Maybe I should call NASA to handle this. They might have some advanced technology to help me calm things down." The idea of bringing in space experts to deal with an airport crisis made him chuckle for a moment, but then he realized the police were really the only solution to get the situation back on track. When the police arrived, the tension in the air was palpable. From the moment they walked in, it was clear this wouldn't be an easy problem to resolve. The intoxicated woman, with her bleary eyes and unsteady gestures, refused to leave the area and began issuing a series of confident statements about her rights. Her voice rang out, as firm as if she were on a legal podium. "You can't kick me out. I'm a free citizen. I paid for my ticket, and I have the right to fly right now." Her words were a slap in the face to reality, making some onlookers wonder whether she truly understood the situation. The officers stood still, exchanging looks. They could all sense the complexity of the situation. While her words had some semblance of logic, the reality was far different. She couldn't fly because her flight had been cancelled, and her protest was only making things more complicated. One officer sighed and gently stepped forward, trying to remain calm in what could escalate into a tense confrontation. "Can you leave and take your flight tomorrow?" he asked in a soft tone, using a calm approach. This wasn't just a simple suggestion, it was a strategy. If possible, resolve the issue peacefully without resorting to more forceful measures. But in the eyes of the intoxicated woman, that question seemed anything but a reasonable solution. She remained adamant that she had the right to fly immediately, as if the whole situation was merely a joke to her. Nevertheless, the police remained calm, continuing to attempt to de-escalate the situation. They understood that staying composed in moments like this was the key to preventing things from spiraling out of control. Although the airport staff's explanations and warnings couldn't calm her down, she maintained an incredibly stubborn attitude, disregarding all rules and regulations. As the staff attempted to ask her to leave the area, she began pointing at them with an angry look, as if she were facing a grand conspiracy and fighting for her own justice. "Don't touch me," she yelled, her voice echoing through the airport terminal, attracting the attention of several passengers and staff. She insisted that she was not in the wrong and that every action she took was a self-defense reaction to what she perceived as the attacks from the airport staff. "I have the right not to be violated," she continued, as if her personal freedom had always been unjustly threatened. She blamed the whole incident on her having had a little drink, a justification that seemed naive, yet defiant, causing those around her to laugh at the absurdity of her thinking. Despite her constant shouting and resistance to every request from the airport staff, the situation continued to grow more tense. She refused to accept the reality that her flight had been cancelled and that she would have to wait until the next day for a chance to fly. Instead, she kept blaming everyone around her, claiming they didn't understand her rights and that this was an obvious injustice. No explanation from the staff or warnings from the police could reduce her obstinance. Ultimately, after all attempts at persuasion failed, the police were forced to intervene and arrest her for obstruction and disturbing the public order. Though she repeatedly proclaimed her innocence and threatened to file lawsuits, her actions left the staff and police with no choice but to enforce the law. She was arrested not for being intoxicated, but for her disruptive behavior in a public space where everyone has the right to safety and order. In fact, her actions were not just an unreasonable protest, but a clear example of how sometimes people's refusal to protect their own egos can wreck a situation simply due to stubbornness and impatience. However, the situation was far from over. As airport staff and police led her away from the control area, she kept protesting in a way that was both dramatic and almost comical. Her eyes gleamed as if she were standing in front of a courtroom and about to declare a great victory. She raised her hand as if making a speech to millions of viewers. "I have a ticket, I have rights, and I will not let you bully me. You cannot do this to me. I am a consumer. I have the right not to be violated." Her voice rang with pride, as if her words would change the world. As those around her began to whisper, she continued, "I will call my lawyer. They will not get away with this. You will see. The whole world will know that I am the victim of this injustice." Her words were not just a warning, but also carried a touch of self-pity and the assertion that she was the central character in a play where she was the unwilling victim of a terribly flawed system. Despite the oddness of her actions, she continued to create dramatic scenes, drawing the attention of everyone around her. With every step, she increased the volume of her declarations, as though she wanted to emphasize that the injustices she was suffering would never be forgotten. The whole airport had turned into the stage for a dramatic performance, where she was the brave lead facing the evil forces trying to trample on her rights. The police and airport staff could only shake their heads, trying to remain calm, while the woman continued to create chaos that was both humorous and surprising. The contradiction between her words and actions created an atmosphere that was both tense and laughable, as she believed her vehement resistance could somehow turn the situation around, even though things had already spiraled out of control. In the end, when the police officers had no choice but to escort her out of the airport, the situation that seemed to have ended turned out to be anything but simple. As she neared the police car, she suddenly turned around, her eyes red with anger and her face flushed, taking a deep breath before shouting defiantly, "If my flight isn't immediately rescheduled, I will call my mother." Her words echoed through the air, causing the surrounding crowd to burst into laughter, yet also astonishment. What seemed like a nonsensical statement actually carried a unique meaning, for everyone knew that in her eyes, only one person could solve all her problems: her mother. Like a child, she seemed to have forgotten that life doesn't always work out by simply calling mom. The entire airport fell silent, as if watching a scene in a comedy film, where a drunk woman, with her grandiose declarations, had turned a simple situation into an unbelievable spectacle. And indeed, from a minor issue just not being able to board the flight because it was cancelled, everything quickly escalated into an unforeseen legal war. She had firmly decided that being drunk couldn't be a reason to stop her from flying. She didn't realize that the rights she blindly defended couldn't save her from the reality. In life, you can't always get what you want just because mom says so. She had created an unnecessary mess. And now, instead of a smooth flight, she was facing a legal battle she never expected. In the end, after everything that had happened, the woman not only lost her chance to board the plane, but also faced consequences she hadn't anticipated. She allowed her intoxication and ego to control her, turning a simple situation into a complicated and uncontrollable one. This event was not just a humorous story, but also a lesson about managing emotions and accepting what cannot be changed. In life, sometimes we face situations beyond our control, and rather than reacting excessively, accepting and finding a reasonable solution is the way to stay calm and protect our rights. The lesson here is, Life doesn't always unfold according to our plans, and dealing with difficulties with calmness and reason will help us avoid unnecessary consequences. Don't let emotions and ego override reason, because in tense situations, keeping a cool head is more important than ever.